the track that's taken her to so many gold medals in the track. I think with that finishing speed in mind, we might see some of the others, the marathon runners in particular, pushing the pace strongly through the second half. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we will see a very special time today.
Is it a bit greedy of us to start thinking about a possible world record as Mary produced in 2011? I mean, that target of Florence Kiplagat, low 65s, that is a very, very, very special time.
We'll know pretty early on, even by 5-kilometre point, whether or not a world record is on. But yeah, I think let's not set ourselves up for disappointment. Let's just say we are guaranteed a great race, and we will, we will see the ladies give 101%. Whether that ends up in records remains to be seen.
OK, well, the athletes are getting ready on the start line. Tim has to make his way towards the commentary box. I will be joining him very, very soon. There are the elite women on the start line. Remember, we have the reigning world half marathon champion, Jepchirchir, the reigning Olympic marathon champion, Jemima Sumgong. There's Mary Kaitani, wearing 51 in the pink vest, second fastest athlete in history over the marathon and half marathon. And the 9-time world champion and triple Olympic champion, the greatest female distance runner in history, Tirinish Dibaba. What a lineup. Chairman Nasser will be our official race starter. We are just a moment or so away from the start of the 11th edition of the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon. The elite women will be first off, and then the elite men and the 3,500 other athletes will be poised to get the bulk of the field underway at 7 o'clock. But this is a dazzling array of female talent and a very, very special race in prospect. Mary Kaitani looking calm, looking relaxed. Tirinish Dibaba wearing 54. She just shaded behind the athlete wearing 59. Kaitani, Sumgong, Jepchirchir, Dibaba, and a host of other world-class women watching and waiting for the big start. What a privilege for all of us here to witness what could be one of the greatest female half marathons in history. Well, Tim, I know you'll be looking forward to this race. We have been all week. The eyes of the distance running world descend on Ras Al Khaimah for what could be a very special race indeed.
Yes, thank you, Rob. The leading ladies lined up. It's the first time there has been a separate ladies start here in Ras Al Khaimah. Usually there's a mixed start. And indeed, this is in effect a mixed race anyway for the rules of the sport, because the ladies will have male pacemakers. And in fact, the sport of distance running on the roads quite often quotes different records for the mixed races or ladies-only races. But this, of course, is a mixed race with those male pacemakers out there. The ladies just limbering up, getting ready to go. Engines revving, in effect, very, very fast. This course, hard to think of anything other than a very, very tiny incline at any point. It's been measured to the millimetre virtually over the last couple of days. 2 official measurers are here. And wonderful to see His Highness Sheikh Saud bin Saka Al Kazimi join us this morning. Welcome, Your Highness. Just in time to see those ladies off. The sun is up over the mountains. There were a few spits of rain a few minutes ago, but that seems to have eased off, thankfully. Didn't travel here from London to find rain, you know. Well, we are seconds away from the start, ladies and gentlemen. His Royal Highness feeding off the atmosphere here, the real buzz in the air, as we have what is, without any doubt, the greatest lineup in a women's half marathon ever assembled, ready to go here in Ras Al Khaimah. About 15 seconds to go, ladies and gentlemen, for the start of the elite ladies race. And away they go then. This small but incredibly high quality field of elite ladies athletes. Mary Keitany knows this course full well. I should mention, of course, that the course has changed slightly. About 90% of it is the same as in previous years. This start-finish area, of course, is on the other side of the lagoon, the opposite side of the lagoon from the first 10 editions of this event. But for all intents and purposes, the course is pretty much identical. Indeed, talking to one or two people, they've said it's actually possibly slightly faster because the shelter from the wind in one or two sections is a little bit more sympathetic than in previous years or previous versions of the course. Well, the two pacemakers leading the ladies out. 72 is Timothy Kimeli, 73 Jeffrey Kipiego. And they are tasked with going out at 66-minute tempo. 66-minute tempo, of course, would bring them within touching distance almost of Mary Keitany's course record from 2011 of 65.50. And it breaks down to about 3 minutes and 7 seconds, or 3 minutes and 8 seconds per kilometre. It's mighty quick. So these athletes, of course, train for months in isolation and live a monastic lifestyle for their few outings on the roads. And they will not want to waste this opportunity in just about perfect conditions. Rob Walker, who you heard earlier on the public address system, has joined me here in the commentary box. And Rob, this is a very small ladies' field, but perhaps that intensity of competition that we've been talking about will keep them together for a good section of the race.
I think so, Tim, because there'll be a lot of mutual respect amongst these athletes. It was interesting to see Mary Keitany wearing 51 with that distinctive red vest, smiling at the start line, looking fairly relaxed. Tiranish Dibaba just running on the left. You wouldn't have thought that anybody would go for a break too early in this race. Incidentally, for those of you interested, the elite men's race and the masses will now be starting at 7:05. Just to let you know, if you are interested in the elite men or you've got a friend or a family member running this morning. But as far as these elite women are concerned, Tim, I think they'll all be aware of the strength and depth of this field. This is genuinely exciting to be watching this race. It's a very, very special lineup of women, and it's going to take a really special performance from one of them to secure the win.
Well, they've just gone past the first kilometre uprights, the inflatables that are sort of towers on either side of the road. I think they went through there in around 3:06. Hard to pick it up exactly on that shot. But the pacemakers will know full well the sort of tempo that needs to be laid down. Indeed, while it may look quick, that pack of ladies are not yet being stretched. They can talk to the pacemakers and give them instruction to speed up or slow down if they think they're getting off schedule. At 52 there, that is Jepchirchir, the world champion from Cardiff last year. Finished 4th here in Ras Al Khaimah. Did Jepchirchir. Conditions in Cardiff, where she won so impressively in 67 minutes 31 seconds, were pretty awful actually back in March. It was a storm came across and hit the city over the last 20 minutes or so of racing. There was virtually horizontal rain and very, very strong winds. And yet Perez stormed to the most impressive of victories. She weighs 52. 61 there is Joycelyn Jepchirchir, the 23-year-old who has a best of 69.07. But interestingly, her manager is saying he believes she's capable of taking a big chunk off that, really improving quite dramatically here today. Has only been running for a couple of years, but already has gate crashed the party of the world-class runners. Mary Keitany to the right of picture there in the pink. Keitany, of course, knows this course very well indeed. And you can see that the quick tempo is already stretching these ladies. In the orange there to the left of picture is Jemima Sumgong, the Olympic champion in the marathon. She, like Tirunesh Dibaba, like Mary Keitany, is targeting the London Marathon in 10 weeks' time. This is a stepping stone towards London, but a critically important stepping stone for these ladies. They can get some feedback from their result today and make tweaks and adjustments to training, perhaps a little bit, with the size of that gap leading up to London. But Rob, this is very quick indeed. They are coming up towards the 2-kilometre point. We expect that to be passed in about 6:15.
Yeah, this is really good running. The two pacemakers doing a good job. And what a nice early showing from the 23-year-old Joycelyn Jepchirchir, wearing 61. Certainly not being intimidated by the occasion or the opponents. The race organisers have just asked me to reiterate and clarify that the elite men's race and the masses, the 3,500 who'll be taking part in the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon, will be starting at 7:05. The reason for the clarification is that this commentary, as well as going out live on television, is going out to the assembled crowd. We had a little bit of a delay of a couple of minutes whilst we were waiting for this fabulous race to start. So the elite men and the masses starting at 7:05. But good running in the early stages by this youngster Jepchirchir, Tim, and people were talking about her before the race.
Well, I say good running. I mean, the pace is almost suicidally quick. I had them at 2 kilometres and around 6:04. Now, we wanted them to go through in about 6:15. So they're about 10 seconds ahead of 66-minute tempo at 2 kilometres. If you extrapolate that forwards, well, it means they're on world record schedule by quite some margin.
Yeah, I mean, as you said a couple of minutes before the race began, you know, that target that Florence Kiplagat set in Barcelona and then broke her own world record a year later, that is absolutely brutal. And we didn't think necessarily that it would be quite this fast, because we thought that they'd be concerned about the quality and the difficulty of winning the actual race itself. But this is a really, really fast pace, and surely there'll be multiple casualties here.
Well, there have been 1 or 2 casualties already, I think, but they will settle down. Quite often this happens. The adrenaline is pumping, the excitement gets to the athletes, they sprint off, and quite often you get early splits which are a little bit too quick. It's not such a bad thing to bank a few seconds, so to speak, and then settle down. And I think that's what they may well do in this 3rd kilometre. Of course, if they do run steady tempo, we want them to go through 3K in about 9:20, something like that. 60 there, who's headed off to one side. Rose Chalimo runs for Bahrain.
Yeah, interesting to see her going across for a drink in this very early stage.
And good to see her passing it there, top to the left of picture, to Tirunesh Dibaba. Dibaba wears 54, left of picture. She is a 3-time Olympic champion, was coming back from childbirth throughout last year and was delighted, she said, with her bronze medal over 10,000 metres in Rio. But I think she's a different athlete now, what, some 6 months later.
Yeah, and do you know what, Tim? I mean, you know, until she finished third in the Ethiopian trials in Hengelo last June, she'd been unbeaten over 10,000 metres. I think, bearing in mind that she was coming back from having a baby, and also bearing in mind that she ran a lifetime best for that bronze, I think that was one of her best races over 10,000 metres, which might sound strange to say that, bearing in mind she's a double Olympic champion over the 10. I thought it was an absolutely magnificent performance, and it indicated there's still a lot more quality to come from Dibaba.
Well, there you can see the athletes have just passed the 3K marker, and I got it at about 9:21, so they certainly did slow down quite substantially for that third kilometre, and that's perfect. It gets them back on schedule for something around 66 minutes. It means that although they haven't run in the most conservative way to the 3-kilometre point, it means that they have had a slight breather, so to speak. That third kilometre, I think, has been run in around 3:16, 3:17. So they've gone, and these aren't official, by the way, these times, but about 3:08. Second kilometre, I have at about 2:56, 2:57, and then about a 3:14. So it's a little bit up and down, so to speak, but good to see just about all the ladies there.
Yeah, and you know what I was just thinking whilst you were running over the splits there, Tim? We've been talking, as we should do, about Kaitani and Jepchirchir and Sumgong and Dibaba. But what an opportunity for the likes of Rose Chalimo, 60 on the left, Jepkoskai just to her left, wearing 61. It's not absolutely guaranteed that one of the big four will win. It's likely, but this is great to see other young East African athletes deciding that they'll challenge the Olympic marathon champion Sumgong, the greatest 10,000-metre runner Dibaba. You know, the big four might not have this race all their own way.
Absolutely right, and wouldn't it be lovely if we had an unpredicted result? You know, there's nothing as exciting in sport as a result that you don't expect, and there's, in many respects, it's not great to have a result come up that people were able to predict. The only thing is that, of course, with the quality of that quartet that we've been talking about, you could put your money on any one of them and make a pretty good argument for that, placing that money that way. Interesting to see Tirunesh Dibaba there with the long flowing ponytail left of picture, just tucked in behind most of this pack. I think she still knows she's on a learning curve here. The only half marathon she's ever run before today here in RAK is the Great North Run up in Newcastle in the northeast of England, which is not a record-eligible course. It's a slightly downhill course. It drops just beyond the limit of 1 metre per kilometre over the full distance. But here today, she could set an Ethiopian record. And when I mentioned that to her yesterday at the press conference, there was a little glint in her eye. She didn't realise that it was a record-eligible course, this one, or perhaps that the Great North Run was not a record-eligible course. And she says she's in great shape, still enjoying her training, gets up at 5 o'clock every morning and heads out to the mountains outside Addis Ababa, trains for a couple of hours, comes home, breakfast, sleep, time with her son, and then trains again in the late afternoon. It's as I said, a monastic lifestyle. You'd think it would wear you down after 10 or 12, 15 years. We mustn't forget that Tirunesh Dibaba, Rob, won the 2003 world title at 5,000 metres in Paris. And if you look at the athletes who were racing in that era, they're just about all retired. It's quite, I mean, she was 17 at the time, but it is astonishing how she's maintained her motivation.
Her longevity is absolutely fantastic. And maybe one of the reasons for that, Tim, is the fact that, you know, she had an enforced layoff, if you like, when she had a baby. And maybe the fact that there's a different challenge on the roads to that which she enjoyed and endured over the 5,000 and 10,000 metres. Maybe she looks at this as a new, exciting chapter in her distance running career, having done just about everything on the track. She's now got new targets, and it's great to see her back to top shape.
Well, exactly right. I asked her if she's eased back on the training a bit, because she's got, what, 20 years of training in her legs now at the age of 31, and she said, no, in fact, now that I've moved up to the road racing and the marathon is my next major objective, I'm having to train harder than ever before. But she said, I'm still enjoying the training, I'm still absorbing it well. Well, I missed the 4-kilometre marker, but they are approaching the 5-kilometre marker now, and that is the one that most scholars of the sport of distance running will be paying most attention to. Spread across the road, what, 5 or 6 abreast, suggests that there is no wind in the faces of these ladies and that they're relatively comfortable with the tempo now that it's settled down a little bit. The first 2 kilometres were very quick indeed. And there you can see the start line with the masses ready. The thousands of you taking part today, whether in the relay. Well, away the men go. And my word, there was no hanging about there, was there? The elite men, of course, have again a very, very strong field. There have been an extraordinarily large number of pull-outs over the last few days. Indeed, one athlete had trouble actually getting into the country and was turned around at the airport. But nonetheless, the caliber of this men's field is extremely strong. 7 men in the field with personal bests below 60 minutes. Although we are guaranteed a fresh champion. Nobody in this field today has ever won this race. We do have athletes who, of course, have placed second here. Nguse Amloso of Eritrea was second in 2014. Daniel Wanjiru of Kenya was second here the following year in 2015. And speaking of second places, Bedan Karoki of Kenya is in there as well. He was second in the World Championship half marathon in 2016.
Really strong elite men's field, Tim, as we once again return our attention to the leading elite women. 15:40 at 5K, so it's not quite world record pace, Tim, but it's still very, very fast.
Yes, it is. It's almost exactly on 66-minute tempo. If they were going around in 307, 308 per kilometre, that is pretty much spot on. 15:40 for 5K, so it is quick. And 1 or 2 of those ladies will be under pressure. 1 or 2 of them will be very comfortable. And 4 or 5 of them will be feeling so-so, I suspect, at this pace, because it is, for many of them, a personal best tempo that's being laid down. And it's at times like this when your resolve is tested. Have you done the training? Have you done the hard work? Have you put in the miles, the right balance of speed and endurance? Because if you overextend yourself this early in the race, I mean, they're only just at, what, about 5.5 kilometres now. If you overextend yourself this early, then you will have a very, very tough morning at the races.
Well, we saw Sumgong having a little bit of a bad patch just in those early stages in the yellow vest. She looks like she's focusing and working hard. So too does Peres Jepchirchir. Jepchirchir is the reigning world half marathon champion. She's slightly obscured behind Timothy Kimeli, the pacemaker, wearing 72. But all the main protagonists are there. But this is quick, Tim, as you said. It's around about 66-minute pace. Not quite as quick for some of the 3,500 who will be enjoying the atmosphere and savouring this 11th edition of the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon. It's not all about the fast times and national records. A lot of money being raised for local, national and international charities. And a fair smattering of visitors have travelled from overseas. Such is the growing reputation and the growing appeal of this race. Sure, His Highness and all the dignitaries will be enjoying these inspirational moments. And there he is, the patron of the event and of the race, giving a big wave to all those going across the start line. Just another indication, Tim, of how big mass participation distance running is getting, not just in Britain and Europe, but all over the world.
Well, we are looking at the masses pouring through the start line, and now we can take a look at the map here in Ras Al Khaimah as they the circuit which circumnavigates the lagoon. And as you can see, it's long straight stretches from the clock roundabout. They head down Kuzam Road, they take a right here and head down past the Tower Links Golf Club in this dogleg, where they take a left sharp turn at 7k, back up that extension of Kuzam Road onto the main part of Kuzam Road alongside the lagoon, with that little section added in recently to make up the distance, back up in a northerly direction now alongside the lagoon. And this is where their course is long and fast and dead flat, very, very straight indeed, under the RAK bridge, back towards the finish line next to the Zayed Mosque, and back to the men's race. And this does look quick, Rob. We'll bring you splits as quickly as we can, but there is no hanging about there. And when you actually break down how quickly these athletes are moving per kilometre or for each 5 or 10 kilometre section, it is frightening.
Oh, I mean, for the average layman, this would be the equivalent of sprinting for a bus for 50 metres or 100 metres. It's absolutely breathtaking. And occasionally you find that television pictures somehow make it look a little easier than it actually is. This is flat out sprinting for most decent distance runners, let alone those who usually go out for a jog. I got a glimpse there of Ngozi Amlason, the Eritrean. He was up near the front, a big group of elite men here. And the conditions are virtually perfect. We've had some well-documented unusual weather here in the Emirates over the last week or so. Some quite strong winds, and as we've been going through the last couple of days leading up to the race, we've noticed big winds. But it's calm, it's warm, and could we be on for a very, very special run by 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 or 4 of these world-class women?
Well, the men are moving at what looks around 2:47, 2 minutes 47 seconds per kilometre. That is 59-minute tempo. That's what the pacemakers were asked to lay down. And in this ladies' race at 5k, the pacemakers appears to have settled down to a good tempo and are pretty much spot on with 15:40 at 5k. That is 66-minute tempo. Perez Jepchirchir there wearing 52, who, as I mentioned, came 4th here last year and then went on a sort of orgy of great wins over the half marathon distance. She won in Yangzhou in China and Usti in the Czech Republic, and then in Valencia. She ran a great 10 kilometers last year in May, winning in Bangalore against a very strong field, and then the very following week, or 2 weeks later rather, won a big 10k in Ottawa in Canada. So she has speed, she has good strength, great racing nous as well, does Perez Jepchirchir. Don't underestimate her.
Great to see the elite women running so well at the front. Meanwhile, this is the view back at the start line. Remember, we have a hotly contested team relay going on, as well as the male and female elite races, and the 3,500 who, as you can see, have now cleared the start line as we return our attention to the elite women's race. And Perez Jepchirchir, the one tucking closest to the pacemakers, Kimeli on the left, 72, and Kiplagat on the right. And also still running well, Tim, is the 23-year-old Jocelyn Chepkoskai.
Yeah, well, the gaps are beginning to appear, aren't they? 23.5 minutes on the clock. And that little trio in the back of Jemima Sungom in orange, the Olympic champion in the marathon, and Tironesh Dibaba just behind her with the flowing ponytail, very easy to pick out. Just that little gap of a few meters. Tucked in behind them there is Mary Kaitani behind that leading trio, as we see the GPS tracking of the elite ladies. 13.5k to go. Fortunately, it matters not really at all where they are on the course, because there would appear to be no wind today. Drinks being shared at this stage. I'm not sure that would be happening in the last few kilometers if it came down to the dust up for the prize money. And one of the very few small inclines there for the ladies. And there you can see the predicted time, Rob, 16:51. So it has eased back a little bit this last few minutes.
Yes, I mean, they went through one or two very, very quick kilometres just towards the very early stages of the race. I've just noticed Helle Kiprop dropping off that group as well, the World Championship Marathon silver medalist in Beijing in 2015. She's become a little bit isolated as we get a glimpse of the men. Daniel Wanjiru nearest the camera, wearing number 9. Winner of the Amsterdam Marathon, as Tim was saying, in 2:05 last autumn. He's in cracking shape. Lovely, easy-looking strides. Cameraman just showing us there's not a breath of wind on the course.
Interesting to see Choge there. Augustine Choge to the right of picture, paying the closest attention to the pacemakers. Clearly keen to impress here after finishing 3rd behind his training partner Eliud Kipchoge in Delhi back in late November. Well, here he is, what, some 10 weeks or so later, and I think has put in a lot of hard work. That was a very impressive run from him to run 60:01 in his first major international half marathon, Rob, and yet he of course will have been on a very, very steep learning curve. He will have taken back so much information from that run that he will have applied over this last 10 weeks and psychologically will be applying today.
I agree, because it was his second half marathon in Delhi, but no disrespect to the race in Philadelphia. That was 63 minutes plus change. It was a massive step up in class and quality of opposition to go to Delhi and to manage to finish on the podium just a fraction outside that magic 60-minute barrier. I think we could see something very special from Augustine Choge today. And the fact, as we now once again watch the women, the fact that Choge is the man leading the chasers behind the pacemakers indicates he's up for it and he's ready to go.
Well, it's happening now in the ladies' race, isn't it? Sumgong and Tirunesh Dibaba in that second group. Perez Jepchirchir, the reigning world champion in the half marathon, to the left of this leading group. Mary Keitany is there as well in the pink vest behind the pacemaker wearing 73, Jeffrey Kipyego. The other pacemaker, Timothy Kimeli, is helping the second group. He wears 72. And the split screen shot now, which is handy. You can see the ladies to the right of picture, the men's race to left of picture, although that side-on shot of the men's race doesn't really tell you a great deal about what's going on in the pack. It would be nice to see more of the pack in that men's race. But I think there's several chapters yet to unfold in the ladies' race. They could well come back to the lead group or catch up with the lead group. Could that second trio of ladies with Jeffrey Kipyego.
One, wouldn't it be interesting, Tim? Certainly she's looking good at the moment. Perez Jepchirchir wearing 52. We were talking about her potentially being, I hesitate to use the term the weakest, but the one of the leading 4 who might struggle, bearing in mind that she's still recovering from pneumonia. Sort of took out some good months from her from November through to the end of January, but she's the one right up alongside Jeffrey Kipyego, the pacemaker wearing 73, with the youngster Chip Kosgei and Mary Keitany, the 3-time winner, the former world record holder, the former world half marathon champion. Jepchirchir is looking really good here, and it does indeed indicate that perhaps, touch wood, from her perspective, she has made a full recovery from the pneumonia.
Okay, move.
Well, she does look up for it, doesn't she? With that forward-leaning torso, the left athlete of that group as we look at them. By the way, just some information on the men's race, because I know there's people watching on the internet all over the world who will be interested in this. The first kilometre was 2:51. Remember, they were looking for 2:47s to go out at 59 tempo. 2:51, then they went at 2:48, followed by a third kilometre in 2:48. The predicted time at that stage was 59:25, so they weren't far off schedule. The fourth kilometre, they hit it right at 2:47, which put them onto 59:15 tempo. So here are the men again, going through 5K in what, 14:01. I've got it more or less there, Rob.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's inside the hour. And although we've had some sparkling performances from the men, the last couple of years, the emphasis seems to have been on really lightning quick finishes rather than lightning quick times. I wonder whether we'll get a repeat of 2014 when, as we were saying before the race began, Tim, we had the first 8 men inside the hour. That is an extraordinary target, but even to get 5 or 6 in under 60 would be very special indeed. And it looks as though it's turning out to be just as high quality in the elite men's race as it is for the elite women, as we get a glimpse of the masses streaming round this course. Remember, we've got a brilliant team relay going on, and there are battles to be the #1 finisher from the UAE. We've got veteran races going on. We've got prizes for the best youngsters. So many races within races, but there's just a confirmation. Pacemakers doing a good job here. We are on course once again for sub 60. And 60 minutes dead is the fastest time in the world this year, set by Great Britain's Callum Hawkins in Japan last Saturday. Ran 60 on the nose. But this is good, and there could be a couple of lifetime bests in here, and maybe for Augustine Choget.
Well, there is Choget in the orange vest, and the predicted finishing time, as they have 15.5 minutes on the clock, is 59:51, just inside the hour. But pick a point on the sidewalk or the pavement there and see how quickly it disappears out of view, and you will fully appreciate the speed at which these men are moving. 14:01 for 5K, obviously almost exactly 28-minute pace for 10,000 metres. But I rather fancy that time, that predicted time, will come down. That's a big pack of athletes there. Clearly, Choget in the orange, keen to stick very, very close to the coattails of the pacemakers. No sitting back in the group for him.
And also, Tim, look how comfortable Amlason looks, just running 4th there. He's a very tall figure, the Eritrean. I wonder whether his compatriot, the reigning world record holder, Zerzané Tadesse, will be watching this race. Tadesse, arguably the greatest half-marathon runner in history, multiple world half-marathon champion. He's got that world record of 58:23.
Well, the men, you can see there, that blue dot in the middle of the picture is where they are. They're just heading down towards, with the golf course there on their left, towards 6K. In fact, they should be just about past 6K now, with 17:15 on the clock. Slight downhill here. They might have put in a quicker kilometre here. It'll be interesting to see if this 6th and 7th kilometres do pick up the tempo a little bit.
This really is, sorry Tim, this really is gearing up to be a great race, to have so many men right up there when they're on course for sub 60. Could be another special edition of this race.
Well, Rob, I've just got the split for the 6th kilometre. I got 2:45 for the men, so they're on about 59-minute flat tempo, with that one having kicked in so fast. The elite women coming up to 10 kilometres now.
Oh, this is good. Kaitani, 3 times a winner of Ras Al Khaimah in the red vest, just obscured behind Jeffrey Kiplagat is Peres Jepchirchir, the reigning world half-marathon champion, and alongside them, the 23-year-old Joycelyn Chepkoskai, who's only been in serious training, Tim, for 2 years, coached by her husband. She's looking really good here. She's in illustrious company, and more to the point, she's got some incredible athletes currently behind her. Long way to go, but what a positive start to the race for the 23-year-old.
No, exactly right. In fact, the ladies have passed 10K. We'll try and bring you that split as soon as we can. 15:40 for 5K. And 10K, 31:07, the official clocking for the ladies at 10K. Had a couple of minutes to go now, but it's still valid, and from that we can extrapolate a fairly accurate finishing time were they to maintain this tempo, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's quick. It might even be high 65s to low 66s. It is very, very fast indeed. And that might indicate why the likes of Jemima Sumgong, the reigning Olympic marathon champion in the yellow vest on the extreme left of picture, and Tironish Tababa, it might explain why two of the fancied athletes have been dropped by this lead group. They haven't become completely isolated, so they're not totally out of this, but they're certainly 20 or 30 metres adrift of this leading trio, who are following in the footsteps of Jeffrey Kiplagat and running really well at the moment. We have to keep half an eye on the clock for Tironish Tababa. Remember, there's an Ethiopian national record at stake if she runs 66.14. So it is turning out to be a great race, but not all of the big four are up at the front.
No, they're not. Tironish Tababa maybe choosing to ease back on the throttle and hope that they will come back to her. Interesting to see Jeffrey Kiplagat regularly checking his watch and doing a good job as a pacemaker here. Seems to be very aware of what's going on around him. They split up fairly early in the race, the two pacemakers. Timothy Kimeli helping the second group through, although they are a little way down now. The gap back to Sumgong and Tironish Tababa and Hela Kiprop at 10K was 10 seconds. Very interesting to see Kaitani in such good shape. She is a real force, isn't she? 35 years old now, Kaitani there in that pink, or is it a red top? And by any standards, one of the greats. The second fastest woman in history, a three-time winner here. Only 9th in the London Marathon in April, remember, last year, and after falling very heavily, and then was ridiculously left off the Ethiopian marathon squad for Rio. She wanted to prove a point, and she did when she went back to New York in November and took her third New York title in 2 hours 24 minutes. But nothing can compensate for missing out on the Olympics. And of course, if you go back to 2012, Rob, Mary was 4th there, as she found out later on, had been running a few weeks pregnant at the London Olympics, and still finished in 4th place in the marathon, which in itself was remarkable. But it's horrific to think that an athlete of her caliber, that with the consistency she's shown for years after year, might finish without an Olympic medal.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's the only thing missing from her collection. World half marathon champion, got a world half marathon silver a few years before that as well. She's a former world record holder, a multiple winner on the roads of New York, and I think she did prove a point last autumn. It shows you the strength in depth and the bravery of the Kenyan selectors to leave her out. And with the age she is now, it would be a bit of a long shot to think that she might still be in cracking shape heading towards Tokyo in 2020. So there may not be an Olympic medal for Mary Kaitani, but she's still got a lot to prove and a lot to offer on the roads. As we look at the pacemakers here, that's Kenneth Keita just leading the way. He's a sub-60 performer. In fact, the two pacemakers, Jeffrey Yagon and Kenneth Keita, both have lifetime best inside 60 minutes. And we were sort of joking around the press conference yesterday, Tim. Any other nationality, they'd be fully fledged internationals in this with an opportunity of winning. And yet here they are, setting the pace for the best of the rest. And a very good pace it is at the moment. Still on course, we think, for under 60, which is the magic number. But it does look as though they're beginning to stretch out a little bit here. Single file.
Yeah, single file is a clear indication that they really are having questions asked of them. Augustine Choge in 3rd place. That's a place where the position he's held virtually throughout. That's Karoki there, wearing 8 in the orange vest. Bedan Karoki, World Championship silver medalist in Cardiff last year, behind Kamwar, Jeffrey Kamwar, and in front of one Mo Farah. But his time there, 59.36, in far from ideal conditions in the Welsh capital. And he looks up for this, doesn't he? Goodness me, really bouncing along is Karoki. Good on all surfaces. He was silver medalist in the World Cross Country Championships in China almost 2 years ago, and he's a great track racer as well. 7th in Rio in the 10,000 meters behind Mo Farah on that occasion. Well, these are perfect conditions, whatever tempo you're moving at. And many of these athletes, if not the majority, will have a target time in mind, an objective. And I think in these conditions, the majority of them will hit it. It's an overcast day in Ras Al Khaimah. So often through the middle part of the morning, the temperature climbs when the sun is out to something that is far from conducive to quick running. But this morning, it's about spot on.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. We were monitoring the flags as we were chatting before the race started, Tim, and there's not a breath of wind in the sky. Bidan Karoki, he has a sort of short stride. He keeps looking over his shoulder. He's not as smooth looking as some of the other Kenyan athletes, but he is so good. I know you mentioned about that half marathon, the World Half Marathon champs in Cardiff last year, Tim. We were both there commentating. The conditions there were absolutely brutal, and I thought the run by all three of the medalists, I thought Jeffrey Kamworor's run, when he wasn't that far outside the world record, is one of the best performances we've ever seen over the half marathon. And Bidan Karoki was fabulous value for his silver medal. He's got a great chance here, but he keeps on looking over his shoulder. Bit too early to be doing that, you'd think.
Well, here's some news for you. The 8-kilometer time, 22:18. That puts them on 58:49 tempo. 9K, the 9th kilometer, 2:45. They're on 58:41 tempo at 9 kilometers, yet to reach halfway, but they are tearing around the streets of Ras Al Khaimah here in this emirate of the United Arab Emirates, and they are almost on world record schedule. They are very, very close to it, and they still look so hungry for it. Bidan Karoki there in the orange, bouncing along. It's almost like speeded up film. He's going so quickly. A little glance over his shoulder there, but he hardly has time for that sort of gesture. So, Rob, both races building really nicely, and the men at the moment threatening records.
Well, that is amazing, because that world record from Zerzane Tadesse from Lisbon, 58:23, we thought it would be a long, long time before anybody got close to that one. The late Sami Wanjiru is certainly an athlete we thought who might get close, and sadly, of course, no longer around. But this is a brutal injection of pace from Bidan Karoki. Even Kenneth Keita, the pacemakers, having to really work here. And Karoki keeps on looking behind. I think he might actually be talking to Kenneth Keita. In fact, he is. Karoki, in the few times we've seen him close up, Tim, has looked behind him at least 5 or 6 times. He's got Solomon Yago immediately behind, and he's a class athlete, the 4th fastest in history with 58:44, and even he's on course for a lifetime best. That's the stats as far as Kenneth Keita is concerned. 13 is Yigrem Demelash, who just missed a medal in the Olympics over 10,000 meters last year. But Bidan Karoki is really putting the cat among the pigeons here. Could we see an attack on Tadesse's world record?
Well, they've just gone through 10K in about 27:55. There it is, 27:52 at 10 kilometers here in Ras Al Khaimah. A course record is on. The world record is just about within reach at the moment, 27:52. That would take them to 21 kilometers in 58:37. They need to find, well, about another 15-20 seconds, and an acceleration at this point is a big ask, isn't it?
It is. I mean, for them to maintain this would be quite extraordinary. Karoki's PB is 59:14 when he won Copenhagen a couple of years ago. The pacemaker's been spat out the back. Kenneth Keita, who was wearing 22, and Karoki there, he keeps on looking round, and he's talking to the other Kenyans, I suspect trying to work out whether he's going to get any help at the front of the field. He was certainly talking to Kenneth Keita, the pacemaker, maybe saying, listen, can you go a little bit quicker? It's an unusual stride and gait for Bidan Karoki, quite short, but his leg speed is phenomenal, Tim.
Yes, it is, and it's with these front-on shots, while we can identify the athletes and see the situation on the road behind them, you don't get an idea of the stride length, or whether or not they are fatiguing and beginning to settle down a little bit or not. But I just think that Biran Karoki is doing the attacking here, he's doing the aggressive running, but doesn't Choge there look relaxed? He's got that raking gait of a middle distance runner who can go so much quicker than this should he need to. If he's as comfortable as he looks, then he might cause quite some upset.
Do you know, I was just thinking as you were talking there, Tim, and I know Eliud Kipchoge has been a bit of a mentor for him. It's Kipchoge-esque, isn't it? And there's probably no coincidence in that, because both of them spent so long performing at such a high level on the track. I mean, I know Eliud Kipchoge had a couple of Olympic medals, but you know, Augustine's had a couple of world indoor medals, a prolific junior. He's so smooth, Augustine Choge. And if he can hang on to the coattails, as it were, of Biran Karoki, he's going to absolutely obliterate his lifetime best of 60.01. And at the moment, of the two athletes, Karoki there in the orange/yellow vest and Augustine Choge in the white and black, you've got to say, Choge's looking the smoother of the two athletes. This is a very, very special race in the making.
Well, 27:52, the official time at
slowly, a little bit, slowly,
10 kilometers.
Yes,
They've gone through 11k there. Didn't get an exact split for that, but it doesn't look to me like there's been any great letting up in this aggressive tempo. 11k, the 11th kilometer at 2:47 on top of 27:50. So what does that make it? 11k in 30:37.
This is an extraordinary pace being set by Karoki. Yigrem Demelesh just allowing a metre or so to grow. He's the athlete from Ethiopia in 4th place, just on the right of picture. The tall Kenyan Solomon Yego is in 3rd place, bearing in mind he's the 4th fastest athlete in history over the half marathon, and he's in 3rd. And look now, Tim, Augustine Choge, for the first time, hitting the front, glancing over his shoulder. A confident move, considering how fast they're already running. This is looking good for Choge.
And single file here as they negotiate this roundabout. Just looking at the splits from Zersne Tadesse, the world record holder. When he went through 10k in his world record, he ran 27:53. Well, they've gone through today in 27:52. Kaitani in the ladies' race. Let's go back to them. We haven't seen them for quite a while. 46:30 at 15k. And we'll just check the graphs and see what the sort of tempo that puts them on. Kaitani, 46:30. Well, I have them there, in that case, heading for something around, again, about 65:40. So they are well inside 66-minute tempo.
And that's incredible, Tim, when you think only 3 women have run inside 66 minutes. The top 3 in the world, the world record is 65.09 with Kiplagat. Kaitani's run 65.50. That was here in 2011. But what a great run from Perez Jepchirchir. So she's leading at the moment alongside the pacemaker, Jeffrey Kipyego, and Kaitani in 2nd place in the race, with a few more meters opening up to Joycelyn Jepkosgei, wearing 61 in 3rd. But Perez Jepchirchir, if she keeps going here, she's on course for a massive personal best, Tim. Her lifetime best set here last year when she was 4th in 66.39.
And this is a very significant point, because Perez Jepchirchir just beginning to wrestle control of the race from the pacemaker and try to turn the screw and put pressure on Kaitani there in 2nd place. And questions being asked of the former world record holder, the event record holder Mary Kaitani. Remember, we can't really call her 65.50 the course record, because the course has changed this year slightly. But Kaitani is being tested here, make no mistake, and Perez Jepchirchir must know that. She must be aware of it. She'll have caught a view of Kaitani out of the corner of her eye. Joycelyn Jepkosgei in the background, really beginning to struggle now. I think there's been a surge here from Perez Jepchirchir.
Well, and just looking at this shot, Tim, glance back down the field and you'll see Jemima Sumgong, the reigning Olympic marathon champion, and right at the back of shot, now just disappearing, Tiranish Barber. So two of the big four have been blown out the back here, and they are a long way adrift of this searing pace being set by Jepchirchir, and it's only Kaitani hanging on to her coattails for company. And we should remind ourselves, Tim, in the 20 half marathons that Mary Kaitani has contested, she has only lost one. That was when she was third in Lisbon in the autumn of 2007. That is how rarely she's beaten over this distance. So she has been undefeated over this distance for almost 10 years. And here she is in second place, and Peres Jepchirchir is asking the questions of the mercurial Mary Kaitani. And Kaitani is really having to dig deep here.
But she is the ultimate competitor, Kaitani. She's won 5 of her 10 marathons. 3 times she's won in New York. And that is one of the most competitive marathons in the world. She's the second fastest in history in the marathon, with her personal best of 2:18, 2 hours 18:37. That was in London in 2012. The London Marathon, as opposed to the Olympic Marathon, which of course was 4 months later. Well, here you can see the athletes on the course, heading out, heading in a northeasterly direction along the Al-Qazim Corniche Road. And this is absolutely dead flat, dead straight as well, as you can see. Of course, some athletes find that psychologically this is very tough when you can see the road stretching out for a long way, a mile, maybe 2 miles in front of you. They find it actually quite challenging mentally. But they will head under the RAK bridge. And with 51.5 minutes on the clock, they've only got about 15 minutes of running to go, maybe less. But is this going to turn into a little cat and mouse affair now between Jepchirchir and Kaitani? Or is one of them going to cut loose and race for the line, race for the record? Victory sometimes gets in the way of record chasing.
It's hard to pick a winner at this stage, isn't it? I mean, I guess because of the longevity of Kaitani's success, you might put her down as a marginal favourite. But Peres Jepchirchir smashed a world-class field in Cardiff last year in brutal conditions to take a fabulous gold medal. And as you've already indicated and reminded us all, Tim, that wasn't her only half-marathon win last year. There were 3 more as well. This is very, very fast from both of them. Still going well in third is Jepchirchir. She's now become a little bit isolated, and I wonder whether one or two of the rest will maybe fancy trying to close her down a little bit. I mean, she's still running very well indeed, considering her lifetime best is 69.07. Winning in Carla Vivari last year. She's going to absolutely obliterate that time. Only been running seriously for 2 years. But at the front, the battle is between Jepchirchir and Kaitani. And Mary Kaitani is still there, still waiting, still watching. But the question is, at this really fast pace, can she find something over the last couple of kilometres? Well, we're about to find out.
Well, 17K has come and gone for the ladies. 13 kilometres has come and gone for the men. And their time at 13K, the men, by the way, 58.55. That puts them on schedule still. That's the that's the time that's predicted, 58.55. Their 13th kilometre was at 2:52. The 12th kilometre at 2:49. So they're not quite hitting those 2:47s, but they still are on schedule for something inside 59 minutes, and that is very, very rare indeed. 38 minutes, 38.5 minutes on the clock for the elite men. There they are, top left of picture, just coming into view. And the 15-kilometre time for Tadesse, although it's 3 or 4 minutes away, was 41:33 in Lisbon back in 2010. Talking to him earlier on last year, he said the wind was very strong on that day and there was relatively poor pacing as well when he set the world record of 58.23. But here is this leading quartet. Trio behind. Well, it includes 10 there. Edwin Kipyego, 15. Shadrach Kiminin-Korir, who's a birthday boy. He's 21 today, is Shadrach Kiminin-Korir. Doesn't look like he's going to get the present of a victory on his 21st. Hugh Jones there, former London Marathon winner in the yellow. On the bike is one of the two course measurers who were out the night before last, ensuring that the course was accurately measured with all the small adjustments that have been made this year. And 2, Solomon Yago, the world #1 last year, although he was only broken 60 minutes on one occasion, Rob. Very, very consistent half-marathon specialist who won 5 of his 8 races, for example, in 2012. Interesting to see him hit the front. I think the pace might have settled down a little bit.
Yeah, he's an interesting athlete, Yago, because that 58.44 in Ostia last year was a lifetime best by 1 minute and 20 seconds. And certainly, judging on the pace he produces over the half marathon, you would have thought, in theory, he should be able to obliterate his marathon PB of 2:08.31. He set that when he was 3rd in Prague last year. He's won 4 of his last 5, and he's certainly looking pretty good at the moment. Now, with the women's race, Tim, this is a break here from Perez Jepchirchir, and Kaitani is really having to hang on here. Jepchirchir, well, is this the definitive bid to outstrip Kaitani and deny her a 4th RAK title?
Well, she's trying desperately to hang on. She's already got the gap as Kipchirchir. That is Jepchirchir. That is so important. Psychologically, that elastic band has now probably snapped, because that is quite a big gap. Look, you can see there, 20 meters between Jepchirchir and Mary Kaitani as they turn at the northernmost point of the course, and they now face the long, long run down alongside the RAK lagoon, with the lagoon on their left. That turn is at about 18.5 kilometers. Jepchirchir very much back to full power. It's great to see. She had an astonishing 2016 year of racing. Just went to the well one time too many when she got to Delhi last November, and she was well beaten there. 6th in Delhi, in fact. But this is Jepchirchir, perhaps the name for the future. She's only 23, her lifetime best 66.39 when she was 4th last year here in Ras Al Khaimah. Surely that time is going to be improved, but Kaitani isn't finished. Deep, deep concentration, hunched shoulders there from the little athlete in pink, trying desperately to get back to her compatriot.
Well, she cannot allow this gap to grow any bigger, Tim. And look at the information coming from the pacemaker. Jeffrey Kipyego still talking to Perez Jepchirchir. It's still a cracking run from Kaitani, judging by the pace they're on at the moment. But when you think that Perez Jepchirchir lost 3 months at the end of last year to pneumonia, this is a very, very impressive performance in
Karaoke it is who has hit the front again. I thought the pace was slackening a little bit, but he's picked it up. They got to 15K with a 2:56. Still on about 59-minute tempo, 42.05. Well, remember, Macau, I said at, not Macau, Tadesse during his world record was 41.33. So 42.05 does put them some way outside world record tempo. I don't think we should be worrying about the world record now so much as the wonderful race that is unfolding. And Karaoke has got the gap. He's easing away and trying desperately to cover that gap. It is Choge, Augustine Choge, leading the chasing trio. But Karaoke now is a very wily racer, Rob. We talked earlier about his track and his cross-country and his road credentials. And he will be aware now that he's got that 6 or 7 yards, and he will start really turning the screw. If there's ever a time where he should make it tell, it's now.
Yes, because I don't think he has the sprint finish that Augustine Choge could potentially draw on, although, you know, Choge's probably in uncharted territory here because he hasn't run a half marathon yet in under 60, but he's looking good as Demelash comes up onto Augustine Chogi's shoulder, and Solomon Yago, the 4th fastest half-marathon runner in history, he's in 4th place. But beaten Kuroki, well, some of the greatest performances he's produced, he's ended up being in the shadow of his compatriot, Geoffrey Kamworor, because he got the silver behind Kamworor in the World Half last year in Cardiff. As we've mentioned, he had a cracking duel with Kamworor on a very interesting course in China in 2015 in March at the World Cross. I was there watching that one. They were tearing each other to pieces, shoulder to shoulder, barging each other out the way. And once again, Kuroki ended up as the bridesmaid, coming home with a World Championship cross-country silver medal. I know you've got 2 of those. So on 2 of his big performances, Kuroki has ended up finishing 2nd to Kamworor. Is this the day where he finally comes out on top? It's not a definitive gap yet, and I wonder, actually, sometimes head-on angles can be a little bit deceptive. I wonder whether Augustine Chogi and Demelash, the Ethiopian, have just closed that gap by a couple of metres. Yago's definitely become detached in 4th, but I think Chogi is still close enough here that if he's in it with 200 or 300 metres to go, he could still fancy it.
Well, the course record, let's remind you of that, was Patrick Macau's 58.52 back in 2009. On that occasion, he beat one Wilson Kipsang into 2nd. He ran 58.59. Deribe Merga ran 59.18. The first 5 on that occasion back in 09 went under 60 minutes. Little glance over the shoulder there from Kuroki. He will know that he's got to maintain the pressure because Augustine Chogi is working really hard here to close him down, to get back into contact. And if you can work hard, get it back onto somebody's shoulder, well, by definition, of course, you've been going faster than them. It means you can ease off slightly when you get to their shoulder. One tactic, of course, that is a useful one to employ is when somebody has been behind you by some margin, then works hard to close that gap and gets up to you. Just as they get to you, that's when you hit the throttle and make them work hard. They think they can take a breather because they've reached you, and actually what you do is you hit them again. Kuroki, another nervous little glance over his shoulder. He's really racing here as he's thinking about this. How is he going to work it out?
I wanted to ask you this question earlier, Tim. It didn't have the opportunity to, but we do now. Time and again, Kuroki has looked over his shoulder as Augustine Chogi now comes right alongside him and actually moving past. When you look over your shoulder, don't you send a message of weakness to the guys behind you that you've got, that maybe you're getting anxious? And Kuroki has sent that signal back to Augustine Chogi by looking behind him. And it is Augustine Chogi who's gone into the lead as we now look at the climax of the women's race.
61.40 at 20k for the ladies there. And Perez Jepchirchir has got that gap. There's a grimace on that forehead, though. She's working very hard here. She's got the gap. And Mary Kaitani, top right of picture. I don't know if you saw it just then. She had a little glance over her shoulder. And that's very telling. 61.40 at 20k. Well, that will bring them home in around 65.40, something like that. Hard to extrapolate because we just don't know how well they're going to cover these last few hundred meters. But there's no doubt about it that Perez Jepchirchir has worked incredibly hard for that gap, and I think it's a winning gap.
Well, Tim, if it is as quick as that, it could be the 2nd fastest time in history. The 2 best performances have come from the same woman on the same course. Florence Kiplagat ran 65.12 in Barcelona in 2014 and then shaved 3 seconds off that time the following year, also on the same course, with 65.09. This is a very, very good run indeed from Perez Jepchirchir. And actually, Mary Kaitani's not running too far outside what was then a world record performance here in Ras Al Khaimah in 2011 with 65.50. This has been absolutely brutal and relentless from Jepchirchir. Wow. I know she's the world half marathon champion, but bearing in mind the time she's running and the women she's leaving trailing in her wake, this could be her greatest ever performance over 13.1 miles.
Albeit less of a surprise than her win in Cardiff last year. She's a delightful young lady. She really is quite expansive when you can sit and chat with her and get her attention. She comes from a farming family. I asked her last year what was her childhood like. She said, well, my father was a good farmer, so we ate well. We were always okay. And she is more than a good runner and is going to take home big prize money with the win that looks to be heading her way now. And the young lady, Jepchirchir, the reigning world half marathon champion, has the world of half marathon running at her feet. She said back in November in Delhi, Rob, didn't she, that she was thinking of running a marathon later on this year. She hasn't come out and stated where yet. She's not down to do a spring marathon as far as I'm aware, but surely the world of marathon running will be battling for her attention now as she comes through the 21-kilometer line. Is that 64.56? Mary Kaitani is rallying. She's desperately trying to get there, but here comes the champion. And look at the time, 65.06. And that could be the world record is 65.09. We might have just seen a world record. It came at us so suddenly.
I think
we've just seen the world record broken.
Incredible from Jepchirchir. The best time we've ever seen from a woman is Florence Kiplagat, 65.09. And you can see what that's taken out of Jepchirchir. We have witnessed history here on the 11th edition of the Ras Al Khaimah Half Marathon. His Highness is delighted, and so are all the crowds who have turned out here. Jepchirchir has just ripped up the rule book and the history book. What a run and what a performance, not just from her, but from Kaitani as well.
Well, we knew this was a historic field. The makeup of that quartet that we've talked about for some time was quite extraordinary, and Jepchirchir has not disappointed. She's certainly moved on in ability from last year, but back this men's race now. And Augustin Choge has not only caught Karaoke, but wrestled control of the race from Karaoke. And as I say that, so Karaoke says, oh no you don't. Bidan Karaoke, the 26-year-old, with a best of 59.14. That was in Copenhagen in September 2015. Hits the front again. It's single file once more. It's almost cycling style now, the way this lead is changing. He won his first 3 half marathons that he ever ran. They were back in 2014. And won his debut in Lisbon in 2014 in 59.58. He's very familiar with sub-60 territory. Boy, oh boy, he's only run 6 halves. He's broken 60 minutes in 5 of them. He gets it right again and again, and for that he deserves enormous credit. These men are not machines. We have to remember that. They're human beings. They train hard, but they have all the same frailties as the majority of us. Or many of the same frailties, I should say.
Yeah, it's worth clarifying, isn't it, Tim? So often I think people have a misconception that you could go to a high-altitude training centre and give any young, fit-looking Kenyan a pair of shoes, or on the other side of the Rift Valley, you could do the same to an Ethiopian and you turn them into a world-class athlete. Yes, of course, there are certain advantages of being born at altitude, but at the root of all of these great performances, and you can say the same on the track and cross-country, at the heart of all of these great performances is an engine that has been honed, refined and perfected with hundreds and thousands of miles in the legs. They've done this, and they are doing this on the back of massive amounts of hard work, not just natural talent. But what a ding-dong this is becoming between Augustin Choge, wearing 14, Bidan Karaoke, the world half-marathon silver medalist, the world cross-country silver medalist, and let's not forget Yigrem Demelesh. He's only 23 years of age. He's still up there in 3rd place, and he only just missed a medal over the 10 last year in Rio. Cracking climax coming between the lead 3.
Well, just looking at our computer, it's showing 65.06 as the winning time for Jepchirchir, and that compares with the world record, the official world record of Florence Kiplagat of 65.09 from Barcelona on the 15th of February 2015. So 2 years almost to the day after the world record of Florence Kiplagat has been broken here in Ras Al Khaimah, pending all the normal checks Jepchirchir is the world record holder. Mary Keitany 65.13 in second place, and Joycelyn Jepchirchir in third, 66.08. We'll obviously bring you the official result on screen very shortly. Jemima Sumgong 66.43 in fourth place, and this men's race now with about 5 minutes to go, looking almost as good.
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary day here in Ras Al Khaimah. We knew that the temperature and the conditions were good. We knew that we had a brilliant leading quartet in the women's race, but you can never dare to assume there might be a world record. Well, where the women have delivered, the men have also lived up to their billing. And the significance here is that not only is Bidan Karaoke leading, Demelesh is in second, and for the first time we've seen a moment of weakness from Augustine Chogi. He's still running really well. Remember, he's very early in his relationship with half marathon running, having had a win in Philly last year and then a fabulous third place in Delhi with 60.01. But Chogi now is struggling as Karaoke begins to turn the screw. But can the Ethiopian Demelesh hang on to his coattails and spoil Karaoke's finish?
Well, this is a very, very tough period for Augustine Chogi. He's still new to this event. We've got to remember this is only his third ever half marathon, his second one of international class, frankly. And he's done 95% of the job. But here is the man with the distance in his legs from many years, Bidan Karaoke. And critically, with 55.5 minutes on the clock, he ups the tempo. It's almost like he's hit the bell in a 10,000 metre race. Checks his clock there, checks his own watch, and ups the pace. And he's really asking the questions to Regem Demelesh. Remember Bidan Karaoke, second in the World Half Marathon Championships last year in March in Cardiff, behind Jeffrey Kamworor, his compatriot. Well, Kamworor's not here, and he maybe feels this has got to be my day after Cardiff. He's also a man, of course, who has done so much on the track in great 10,000 metre races. He's been out-sprinted again and again, and he doesn't want to be out-sprinted here today. 20K, 56.10 in the men's race. And Bidan Karaoke has timed this surge, this final gut-wrenching charge for the line to perfection, because Demelesh is wilting. Chogi, even further back, has wilted. Surely there's no way back for them now, as this man who is so good on the track, remember, fourth in the World Championships in Beijing in 2015 in 27.04. He's second in the world cross-country 2 years ago. Seventh in Rio over 10,000 metres. Again and again, he's been there, so close to a medal, but has been out-sprinted on the track. Well, he's making no mistake here.
This is a fantastic performance from Karaoke. And it seems measured and it seems controlled. We've seen him looking over his shoulder time and time again in the middle part of the race. And after finishing just behind Jeffrey Kamworor in China 2 years ago at the World Cross and last year at the World Half Marathon Championships, and having just missed out on a medal in Beijing, as you said, Tim, he's been really consistent over 10,000 metres on the track, but never quite managed to get on the podium. This is a very, very big, significant day in the career of Bidan Karaoke. You can't say it's the greatest performance we've ever seen, because he's a World Championship medalist on two different surfaces. But this indicates he's a big name to consider, not only on the roads over the half marathon, but maybe one day having a crack at the marathon and being a big contender. He's taking some huge scalps here, and he's doing so in style.
Well, his 20th kilometre was a 2:45. That's the acceleration he's pushed in. Remember, plenty of their splits have been 2:52, 2:50 through this second half of the race. 58:15 on the clock. The predicted time 3 or 4 minutes ago was 59:17. So he's got about a minute of running to do. Demelesh in second place there. Back in third place still is Chogi. Another fabulous run from him, although it looks like he might fill the same position that he filled in Delhi last November. But Karaoke, with that jolting, bouncy style of his, a little glance over his shoulder as he comes into sight of the finish line now. It's going to be quick. No world record in the men's race, remember. That world record of Tadesse, 58.23, but it's going to be mighty fast. The course record of Patrick Macau, 58.52, has just clicked by. But here he comes now, Bidan Karaoke, The 26-year-old Kenyan set a personal best 18 months ago in Copenhagen, wins in RAK in 2017, and look at the clock, 59.10 there unofficially for Bidan Karaoke. It is a personal best for him by some 3 or 4 seconds. And again, he's out on his feet. Well done, Bidan Karaoke. A brilliant, brilliant run, an enthralling race there.
Massive PB for Demlash in second place as we watch the rest of the athletes coming home, trying to work out whether Chogi produced a lifetime best. I think he did, so he's inside the hour for the very first time and still improving. But what a performance from Bidan Karaoke to produce a lifetime best against a world-class field. That looks like it's Nguyen Lasson coming home. Just a shade outside 60 minutes, so another good performance from him.
Well, Rob, the time's just coming through. 59.10 for Bidan Karaoke there. The quickest time in the world this year, of course, by some 50 seconds. But in second place, Jepchirchir Demelash, 59.19, 9 seconds down. And in third place, a massive personal best for Augustine Chogi, 59.26. RAK serves up its magic once again. But that was a brilliant, brilliant run. Perfectly judged from Bidan Karaoke, who did far more than his fair share of the leading as well. He really contributed to the battle throughout the race. And then, when it was needed, had the power and speed endurance to ease away to victory.
The top 3, Tim, all producing lifetime bests. That was the quality we saw over the last few kilometres of that men's race. Absolutely superb.
Well, in 4th place with 59.50, Solomon Yago. That's in itself another brilliant run. And there you can see the times of the athletes as they come through, with the added on time to be given to put on top of Bidan Karaoke. And Lossom there, 5th in just outside 60 minutes. And Gusem Lossom 60.04. Lossom finishing in 5th place. Edwin Kipyego 60.05 in 6th place. And still good times here. Wearing 9, Daniel Wanjiru, the Amsterdam winner in October last year in 2:05 in the full marathon, coming home in just outside 62 minutes. We tend to forget just how strong a run anything in the 61, 62-minute range is when we get familiar, or overly familiar almost, with sub-60-minute clockings. But just to remind you, the win here today going to Bidan Karaoke, 59.10. In 2nd place, Jepchirchir Demelash of Ethiopia, 59.19. And in 3rd place, Augustine Chogi, 59.26. And that is a man, let me remind you, who has run 1:44 for 800 meters, just 2 laps of the track. Nobody in the history of middle or long distance running has got anything like the range to compare with that. That is an astonishing spread of ability. Well, the thousands in the mass race and in the relay, of course, as well, out on the roads of Ras Al Khaimah. But talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. Well, they are running in the wake of superstars today, with Perez Jepchirchir, let me just remind you, running 65 minutes and 6 seconds and breaking the world record by 3 seconds unofficially as things stand. We need that to be confirmed, of course, but the world record, we believe, has been broken in the women's race. And the runner statistics, look, the half marathon has had 18,000 entries over the years. The team relay challenge, nearly 5,500. The number of finishers in the half marathon, one shy before today of 12,000. And in the team relay, just over 4,500. The oldest male runner, Axel Lovenholm of Norway, 74 years old, and the oldest female runner, Joyce Archibald, 77 years old. Well done to her. The youngest male runner, Jesse Jonathan Everett, at 11, and the female runner, the youngest, Christine Husny of the USA, at the age of 11 as well. There's an indication of how perfect conditions have been here today in Ras Al Khaimah. Hardly a breath of wind. About half an hour before the gun, there were a few spits of rain. One or two of my colleagues who were follically challenged confirmed that long before I felt it. But thankfully it has stayed away. The cloud, however, slight cloud cover, has stayed with us for most of the race so far, and that has created pretty much ideal conditions. But news of this win here today and the world record in the ladies' race from Perez Jepchirchir will resonate around the world of sport, not just the world of running. The half marathon, such an accessible event for millions of runners throughout the world, throughout the planet, on this sport which is still booming, distance running. Jepchirchir's time, 65:06. And she worked for it. My word, did she work for it over those last few kilometers to break the former course record holder Mary Keitany, who came home, let me remind you, in a new personal best for her by a massive margin at the age of 35, 65:13 for Mary Keitany. Well, let's take a look at Perez Jepchirchir now, sprinting for the line, working hard, the shoulders rolling, still plenty of bounce in that stride. In the background, Mary Keitany, who worked very hard herself over the last few hundred meters to try and close the gap. Jepchirchir approaches the tape. She can see the clock in the finish gantry. She will know that this is a special time. Hardly the energy to celebrate there as she breasts the tape here in Ras Al Khaimah, and hardly the energy to stand as well as her national flag is handed to her. Mary Keitany, though, moving so well towards the line. The world record has gone, the excitement already rippling around the various dignitaries, photographers and others at the finish line. Mary Keitany comes home to a massive personal best. She is far from a spent force, Mary Keitany. When you convert that run to the marathon, what might she yet do? Mary Keitany, remember, the second fastest athlete in history at the marathon with 2 hours, 18 minutes and 37 seconds behind Paula Radcliffe's 2003 mark of 2 hours 15. But I would say on that evidence, Mary Keitany can go a little bit quicker for the marathon yet. We'll find out in 10 weeks' time at the London Marathon. Well done, Mary Keitany. Fabulous in defeat. Well, there will be personal bests galore amongst the masses on this astonishing day of half marathon racing in Ras Al Khaimah. But we can take a look at the closing stages of that enthralling men's race as well now. No world record, no course record, but massive personal bests for the first 3 or 4 home. And here is Bidan Karaoke. Perfectly skilled, if you like, for half marathon racing. Always there or thereabouts at 10,000 meters on the track. 6th in 2013 in the World Championships. 4th in 2015 in the World Championships. 7th in Rio at 10,000 meters. But never quite there with the speed to match the Mo Farahs of this world on the track. Well, today he won this half marathon, going away in 59:10. A personal best by 4 seconds. And he did so much of the work as he breasted the tape. He too had given 101%, just like Perez Jepchirchir, and a really, really satisfying day at the office. Big prize money for these athletes, remember. the delight of utter exhaustion for Bidan Karaoke. Well, the masses are still pouring around the course. Some very good running going on out there. Rob Walker has now moved back out towards the finish line, where he will pick up public address duties very shortly. Okay. Well, we can have a look at a few of the build-up shots from the morning's racing here in Ras Al Khaimah. The ladies getting away just 3 or 4 minutes later than was scheduled. That was due to be 6:45. They got underway thanks to His Royal Highness sending them out onto the streets of RAK at about 6:48, 6:49. The sun had just peeped over the nearby mountains to the east of the city, but the wind made no showing whatsoever, and that produced ideal conditions for the ladies. The men getting underway at 5 past the hour, again just 4 or 5 minutes after the original scheduled start time, but they too were heading off for a very fast race with some 2,000 plus racers behind them, individual racers behind them, as opposed to the relay runners. The relay teams, of course, with athletes running shorter legs. But the ladies set off at breakneck speed. The first kilometre I got at around 3:08, the 2 kilometre mark about 6:04. It whittled down with some 45 minutes on the clock, and then with 50 minutes on the clock, Jepchirchir began to turn the screw on the course record holder, or the event record holder, Mary Kaitani. Wonderful job done by Jeffrey Kiplagat there and Timothy Kimeli. Congratulations to them for their selfless efforts to help the ladies round. And of course, their contribution to this world record today must not be forgotten. Bidan Karaoke ran a very, very cerebral race today, doing his share of leading, as indeed did Perez Jepchirchir. Applauded through the last few hundred meters. Perez Jepchirchir really dug so deep to get that world record nailed, but nail it she did. And that time, just to remind you, 65 minutes and 6 seconds. Bidan Karaoke, in very similar fashion really, doing all the work over the last 2 or 3 kilometers, churning towards the line and coming home in 59:10.
Well, Tim, I've come down towards the finish area, which in a few moments will become the presentation area. We really have been graced by greatness today in the elite men's race and the women's race. Augustine Chogi, Demelash and Karaoke all producing lifetime bests, all coming home inside 60 minutes, as did Solomon Yago coming home in 59:50. It has just been absolutely breathless. And we can confirm, I think you'll be able to back me up on this, Tim, we think that Perez Jepchirchir not only set a world record for the half marathon, but she also set a world record for 20K as well. That is how fast she was going towards the end of the race. Pretty impressive day from Jepchirchir. I think you'll agree, Timbo.
Yes, an astonishing run from Jepchirchir, and of course these things so often go hand in hand. They're only about 3.5 minutes apart, the 20K point and the finish line. So if you get a world record at 20K, you're virtually guaranteed another world record 3 or 4 minutes later, and vice versa. If you get a world record at the finish line, look back down the course and see what sort of damage was done to the record books.
Well, we're not too far away from the presentations. 1 or 2 spectators here, ready to hand over the all-important bananas, loading up with potassium to get them towards the finish line. Remember, we've got 3,500 competing in the half marathon, and we have the hotly contested team relay as well. It's a real festival of distance running here in Ras Al Khaimah, and we have had some magic sprinkled on the race today with 2 great wins and a world record from a woman who, as Tim and I were saying in commentary, has not long ago recovered from a 3-month bout of pneumonia. We knew she was class last year with those 4 big wins, including the World Half Marathon title in Cardiff back in March. But to recover from pneumonia, destroy a world-class field and break Florence Kiplagat's world record from 2 years ago in Barcelona is absolutely staggering. And Tim, I guess even you would say one of the best races you've ever witnessed here in 11 years at Ras Al Khaimah.
Well, both races, yes, we had a brace of brilliant contests, and that is actually when you get everything served up as you would like it. Not only big names on the start line and lots of anticipation, but when the athletes deliver in more ways than one, they not only run very, very fast times, but produce fabulous contests as well. That's what we love to see. It's like heavyweight boxing fights that go all the way to the end, and it's a points decision. So enthralling to watch athletes performing at the peak of their powers like that. Loads of great athletes coming in as well as I'm watching these pictures down the finishing straight. Still good running from these gentlemen and ladies as well.
Well, Tim, down here at the finish, as we still have some very good international and club athletes coming home well inside 80 minutes, we are edging closer to the presentation. And as I say that, His Highness Sheikh Saud bin Saka Al Qasimi steps forward on this great day, his birthday, and a world record-setting day as well. And our first presentation is for the first 3 elite women. In 3rd place, what a great performance from a young woman from whom we will hear much more in the future, Joyceline Jepchirchir. A massive lifetime best for the 23-year-old who's only been competing internationally for 2 years. She will stay up on the presentation area. And our runner-up, coming back from having a baby, a brilliant performance and a lifetime best for Mary Kaitani. And the champion, already the World Half Marathon champion, now the World Half Marathon record holder. What a run from Florence Jepchirchir. Just extraordinary. An absolutely sensational performance there from Jepchirchir, Kaitani and Jepchirchir. Jemima Sumgong was 4th and Tiranish Dibaba 5th. 5 women inside 67 minutes, and we had that all-important world record as well. While the women's race was spectacular and the men's race was just as good. Our bronze medalist, a brilliant track athlete with a massive lifetime best over the half marathon. There's so much more to come from Augustine Choge. 59.26, a really quick time. And the runner-up, just 23 years of age from Ethiopia, just missed a medal at the Olympics last year over 10,000. What a run from Yigrem Demelash. 59.10. And the winner world half marathon silver medalist, world cross country silver medalist, but the winner here in Ras Al Khaimah in a new lifetime best, 59.10 for Bidan Kuroki. His Highness happily posing for the photos. Absolutely incredible performances from all the elite athletes at the head of the men's and the women's fields. And here is the moment that Bidan Kuroki added his name to an illustrious list of RAK half marathon winners. Well, the racing promised much, Tim, but both of them in their own way produced great stories, and Kuroki, without any doubt, has taken yet another step up in class here.
Well done. Good recovery, guys. I've got some stuff to meet you also. Yeah. And also for you.
The unique winner's trophy then for Bidan Kuroki. And already social media is a chatter with news of these astonishing performances in Ras Al Khaimah this morning. A few kilometers down the road on the Gulf. We'll be able to relax for the rest of the day. At least the elite will. A few others are still out there enjoying the brightening sunshine of a RAK Friday morning. For those of you who are still watching on the internet and further afield, of course, we're about 45 minutes north of Dubai here. Ras Al Khaimah, one of the smaller Emirates, but one which increasingly punches above its weight these days, and one which is seemingly changing year after year with new complexes, beach complexes, and more going up around us.
Well, Tim, as you watch some really good athletes still making their way towards the finish line, the world's press are gathering to get photos of Perez Jepchirchir posing behind the official winning time, which is a new world record. Great images up at the presentation gantry. There is the time, 65.06. And there is the champion, Perez Jepchirchir. And we're just going to get in and see if we can get a quick interview with Perez. I'm sure she'll be in hot demand over the next couple of hours. So, Perez, many, many congratulations. I mean, your win in Cardiff last year to become World Half Marathon champion was special, but this is history. You're the world record holder.
Thank you. First of all, I thank my God. I was not thinking that I can run the world record, but it's God's plan. So I'm so happy. I'm not even believing myself that I've run a world record. I thank my God for it.
And bearing in mind, we saw you in Delhi, Tim and I. We've been absolutely enthralled by that race. It was a great performance. When we saw you in Delhi, you were struggling a little bit, and you've lost 3 months out of the last 6 to pneumonia. So the fact that you've come back from illness makes it even more extraordinary.
Yes, I thank God for that also. I was having pneumonia. Even before I came here, it started. But I pray God that let it be healing. I was not expecting, because on Monday I became sick. Tuesday I go for training. Wednesday I didn't go for training. But I was not thinking. But I thank God. I'm so happy.
So you had a recurrence of the pneumonia as recently as Monday this week.
Yeah, it started a little bit. Even when I was running, I was just running and swinging one hand because I was still feeling a little pain. But I didn't even drink water towards going. I was only washing my mouth. I didn't want to drink water so that it will start it. Yes.
Well, that makes what you've achieved even more remarkable. And I wonder, even though it's clearly not really sunk in yet that you've become the world record holder, does this mean as much to you as becoming the world half marathon champion last year in Cardiff?
Yes, that one motivated me so much. After winning a world half marathon, it gave me a lot of morale. And I believe myself. I knew that I am talented, real talented. Now I'm believing myself more from today onward because I've become world record holder. Yes.
It's absolutely remarkable. And also, the other thing that we mustn't forget here are the other athletes you've beaten. This was, by some margin, the greatest field ever assembled for a women's half marathon. We had the Olympic marathon champion, Jemima Sumgong, Tiranish Tababa, the greatest 10,000-metre runner in history, Mary Kaitani, a former world half marathon champion, the second fastest woman in history over the marathon and the half marathon, and a three-time winner here. You beat three of the greats.
Yes, I was so happy because I ran with strong people. Even my colleague Mary Kaitan, I've never run with him before. I was hoping that one time we will run together. And today we have run together, so I was having a morale because I was running with them. So when I was in front, I was having a lot of morale. Yeah.
And at what stage during the race did you start to think the world record was on? Because I was watching your pacemaker and he was waving you forwards in the last sort of 300 or 400 meters because he could tell how close it was. When did you think a world record might be possible?
I didn't even knew because I was not seeing in the front watch. I was just concentrating with the race and following pacemaker. But the difficulties come before 800 meters. It started to become difficult for me to breathe. I just breathe through mouth, nose. So it was just difficult for me to breathe in the last 800 meters to go.
Well, when you finished the multitude of interviews and newspaper phone calls that you're going to have to do over the next couple of hours, you realise you are going to be such hot property now. There are going to be many, many major city marathons who are going to be on the phone asking you to come and run 26.2 because not only do you have the draw of being a world half marathon champion, you're a world record holder. Any indications from you at all yet as to where you might head or what you might do?
Now I don't know because my plans now, maybe I'm gonna go home, find a race organizer and my manager there. He will tell me what forward to follow because I can't choose by myself. He's the one choosing for me. Told me if it's enough now for me to go for marathon, it's well and good. Now I've started prepared. I've started go 35 kilometers, 30 kilometers. Now I've started preparation for marathon.
Well, we can't wait to see what you can do over 26.2 miles, having just witnessed a moment of history here. And finally, the not inconsiderable bonus of $100,000 US. So you'll be returning to Kenya with a pretty big check.
Oh, I'm so happy for it.
Did you not know it was 100,000?
No, this is the first 2 years from you. Wow.
Yeah, $100,000 bonus for a world record.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy, so much happy. Yeah.
Well, many congratulations. Just the most extraordinary performance. Perez Jepchirchir, the world half marathon champion, now the world record holder as well. And Tim, I know as we watch the images of many other people coming in to finish, we'll enjoy and savour those. But this is a performance that will long live in the memory. Even for an old guy like you who's been here for 10 or 11 years, that was very, very special.
Yes, thank you, Rob. It is my 10th year out of the 11 that have been staged, but slightly less of the old man, if you don't mind. It was special, though. The second world record here at Ras Al Khaimah after Mary Keitany's 2011 mark. And Mary, let's not forget, very, very nearly here today, going under the old world record as well with that 65.13 clocking for second place. Florence Kiplagat, 65.09 from Barcelona in February 2015, just falling short of its second birthday. 5 days shy of its second birthday. It was lopped off the top of the pile by that astonishing run from Perez Jepchirchir. But doesn't it say a great deal, too, when a young lady with such fabulous application and humility makes it very clear that she wasn't even aware of the prize money available here today. It's the way that top athletes are taught to think, actually, is don't think about the money, think about your training, think about your lifestyle, your performance, getting it right, and the money will look after itself, is what they are told. What I was told many years ago, but I could never adhere.